Arsenal sits top of the Premier League table thanks to a hugely impressive 3-0 win over Brighton and Hove Albion at the Amex Stadium. Bukayo Saka's penalty, Kai Havertz's 9th goal of the league season, and Leandro Trossard's cheeky chip against his former club sealed a 10th success in 11 top-flight games for the clinical Gunners, who had their fair share of defending to do but did it with vigor, while overcoming early wastefulness to cruise to an emphatic win. While Mikel Arteta's men have now risen 1 point above Liverpool into first place, the Seagulls, who were simply outplayed on the night, were left to dissect their first home defeat in any competition since September, having gone 14 without a loss before Arsenal showed up. Among 4 changes to the Arsenal 11 was the return of Saka from a minor concern, while erstwhile Gunners striker Danny Welbeck was promoted back to the Brighton 11 as part of 5 alterations on the host's end. Let's go around the punditry world to hear what the experts are saying about Arsenal's performance against the Seagulls.
The second half we played well until the second goal we conceded. After that we played not so good, not so well, and we deserved to lose against one of the best teams in Premier League and without a lot of injuries players, and we can't compete against Arsenal or the big teams without our top players.
I think the team was really mature, it was really clever in the game that we have to play, in determination of the areas that they were allowing us to play for, and both in attacking and defending. I think we had a big performance as well individually. We kept going. I think the last action, when Guy Marias blocks the shot and the reaction of the team, the spirit, and how much they want to play for each other, and really pleased to win here.
Yep, another win for Arsenal. Lots of good football to boot, but also 5 away clean sheets in a row now, Ian. That's impressive.
It's very impressive. Arsenal this season, especially what we saw happen at this stage of last season, defensively, they've just gone to another level in exactly what they're doing, how they've been defending. In these instances, we're seeing when Brighton actually break through that press, and then what you can see is the 4 and how determined everybody is to get back and make sure that you can win that ball back. And they've done that on so many occasions. Again, it's a crossfield ball. See Jorginho at the moment in the position, but you can see that's Kai Havertz there. Look, Kai Havertz ends up there at right back, and once they get back into this situation, they block them out, they can't get through, and they win the ball back again. Look at this situation. Once they get here, now you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to get at us now. But then you see the bodies, there they are. Ødegaard wins it back, they win it, and they're away. It was very, very tough for Brighton to get anything once Arsenal just got themselves calmed down, and with this kind of defending, they were just very hard to beat. There it comes across, they win the ball back. There he is again, Trossard, and then bam, we get the foul, and you win it. This was the goal. This is a brilliant goal. I'm not just saying, but it's a fantastic goal in the end. Once he goes through, you just feel the composure, and he just drops him there, and then the finish.
As cool as you like, isn't it?
That was brilliant.
It's a tough finish as well, isn't it?
It was a tough finish, just to lift it. But this is what the manager was talking about, the commitment and what it means. And you know this as well, Diz. This kind of block and, the celebration is because what it means, the clean sheet, what it means and what it may mean in this race to not concede and to score goals. And that is why you can see that kind of celebration, because there's a lot of hard work going to that defensive unit and what they're trying to do, Arsenal. Absolutely. There you can see it there.
Pretty impressive numbers, aren't they, all in? I think that they've won 10 of the last 11, drawing the other game without ever trailing at any point in any of those matches, which is pretty tasty. Can I call you Diz?
Yeah, you can. Everybody else is apart from you.
I didn't really.
But they do. Yeah. That block at the end, that means a lot. Havertz has come into the party. Yeah. Trossard off the benches. Saka scoring, everybody, and Ødegaard's the conductor. In every department, they've got players that are taking charge of that department, and they're doing really well, playing some great stuff as well.
Picture the scene. Last day of the season, Arsenal need a win for the title on the very last ever match of the day that Ian Wright has. It's written in the stars, bro. Can I call you bro?
No, you can call me anything if that happens, man.
OK. Aston Villa had the chance to move 5 points clear of Spurs in the battle for 4th place. It was 8 games without a win for Brentford. Steve Bauer was at Villa Park.
Yeah, 3 goals, 3 points, and a clean sheet as well for the Gunners to the top of the table. The pressure of them having seen what City did earlier in the day and having to match that must have been so intense.
You could see that, you know, they were so confident from the first minute until the end, so never panic, always controlling the game. So it's a big changement, improvement from last season. At the same stage, you know, remember what happened last season? They lost the plot, they lost big players just like Saliba. I was worried about Gabriel in the first half.
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, the bad luck is coming back. But no, they improved so much. Again, it's rare in football to see a bench of guys like this, young like this, improving so much in space of 1 year.
And they're mixed
All together.
they're sharing the game time as well. Manager's doing well.
Yes.
You know, because he's resting players. I mean, Saka's rested before he brought him back in today. He was great, fantastic. They look like they've never been away. So everyone he needs to use, he's got a big squad there. They're ready to go on and they're ready to do the job. And I thought it was great today. Trossard has been an outstanding signing for him. You know, he's little money, but he always affects the football match.
You mentioned Saka there. He got the scoring underway.
Yeah.
The penalty is what Arsenal had first up to open the scoring, a chance to get the lead. This is the incident that led to it. It was Lante on Gabriel Jesus. Stonewall penalty for both of you.
Absolutely.
100%.
Why?
Because there is a contact in the penalty area, so there is no doubt for me that it's a penalty, but it's a silly challenge from Ante, because I think he should have closed him down instead of trying to challenge the ball.
Brilliant. I mean, look, Martinelli's been sitting on the bench as well, so Gabriel's come out there. Jesus has come out on the left-hand side, and normally you see Martinelli do that, but he just dragged it into his right foot, and this is an unbelievable cool finish from Saka. You know, he missed that penalty for England, didn't he? Because it took a lot of stick. He's never going to miss one. You always feel like when he steps up, Mainoo, it's going to end up in the back of the net.
Yeah, it's his first penalty of the season. Arsenal have scored all 10 of their penalties. This is the goal that made it 2-0. Let's talk about Kai Havertz, his role and his goals.
Jorginho too.
And Jorginho, your favourite.
You know, at the beginning of the game, because I thought that Brighton would put more pressure and physical presence on the field. But they didn't, and I'm very happy by his performance, but Kai Havertz as well, because look, as I said before, he's not the same player than last season when he came from Chelsea, and he arrived in a team that was playing the same football, speaking the same football, with full of confidence, enjoying playing all together, and he regained confidence, you know, and now you can see his quality in front of the goal.
Yeah, fine goal scoring form for Kai Havertz, 5 goals and 3 assists in his last 7 Premier League matches. That man you mentioned, Trossard, goal number 3.
Yeah, well, this is the difference with Arsenal. They're 2 up, so they sit back in. They'll get all behind the ball and they say to Brighton, come and open us up. And they don't. And Trossard wins the first one, gets played in by Havertz, and once he gets his first touch here, gets across the defender. Once he goes across him, he sits the goalkeeper down, he's cool as you like, 3-0, game over. Put your legs up, make some subs, Mikel, and make sure we can beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League. But once he gets ahead, he never catch him.
Yeah, great finish though as well.
Yeah, he showed composure, you know, he was clinical in front of the goal. But again, I'm very happy by even when you come off the bench, you know, you play the same football, and there is no difference with the first 11.
7 games in the Premier League this Saturday. What a busy day. Let's remind you of what we saw. We saw goals. 6 at Crystal Palace as Manchester City won 4-2. 6 at Aston Villa as they drew 3-3 with Brentford. A 1-0 victory for Everton over Burnley. 1-0 for Newcastle over Fulham as well. Those 2 games we just showed you at the end. Luton got a late winner against Bournemouth. West Ham got a winner against Wolves as well in a game with 2 penalties and a game with disallowed goals. And then Arsenal to wrap up the evening, winning 3-0 at Brighton. So much to come on Sunday, including that matchup. We're going to hear from the guys just at the end between Manchester United and Liverpool, because this is what it means. Liverpool have dropped to 2nd in the Premier League standings, just behind Arsenal. An opportunity at Old Trafford to go back to the summit if they can get a victory there. Manchester City level on points with the Reds, now in 3rd place. Aston Villa still in 4th, but what can Tottenham do? They play Nottingham Forest on Sunday. Let's look at the bottom half of the Premier League table. Everton with 3 points to take them to 29. Brentford with that point today also on 29. Nottingham Forest, as mentioned, in action tomorrow. And then Luton got a victory today, 2-1 the final score, but still in the relegation zone. Just enough time for us to talk about Sunday's action, and all eyes on Old Trafford. Liverpool now have seen Manchester City make a move. They've seen Arsenal make a move. Now it's up to them. Liverpool, what do you think?
I hope they're going to draw.
What do you think we're going to see at Old Trafford, though?
The big enemies, against at Old Trafford. So Liverpool will feel the pressure because City and Arsenal won. But as I said, I think Klopp, is leaving the club at the end of the season. I think this is probably the factor X for them.
I can't think anything other than a Liverpool win, unfortunately, for the rest of the Premier League sides.
All right, Manchester City made their move, so did Arsenal. It's up to Liverpool now. Drama on Sunday to come. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Mainoo.
Mikel Arteta there, and you see, let's go straight to that, because it's interesting, not just the Champions League games, but the games that fall either side of them as well. Bayern Munich at home, then Aston Villa, who, as we know, are fighting for Champions League football themselves, and they have to go to Bayern and then go to Molineux before those next two. This is it, isn't it, Theo? These next 6 games could tell us a lot about the destiny for Arsenal.
Yeah, just breathe, I think. I think as well, the great thing with Mikel, he is, like you say, when he speaks, so calm. You listen to every word. The players will be so much... To the player he was, you have to listen, because he's got so many experience he's worked with before in the past, and he won't switch off. He won't let you switch off at any moment.
But do you think he is calmer? Karen asked the question about what had changed for him from last season, but do you think he has?
I do. I mean, he says he's not calmer, but he definitely seems like it to me. He really does, which is, it's really pleasant to see. Like I say, I keep on nagging on, but the backroom staff is so important, I think, to him they've actually witnessed it on the outside to see him visually when he's during a match, and I think they've probably helped that process as well.
Looking at those fixtures, I mean, Bayern Munich particularly, they'd have been looking at this today, the coaches and maybe the players, and they would have thought, that they're a good team, and we knew that anyway, but maybe they would have put them even higher than they thought they were, Arsenal, because that was highly impressive.
I asked the question about priority because I got the feeling that Pep Guardiola sort of nudged the question when he was asked it the other day towards the Premier League rather than the Champions League, which of course they won last season. It's the game for Liverpool tomorrow at Manchester United. Of course, is a huge hurdle. But I just wonder, the manner of Arsenal's victory here, away from home, Karen, does that get you, or will that get people thinking that this indeed could be their year?
Well, I think you mentioned the performance away from home here today, and everyone probably were looking at their fixtures when they're away. Obviously, the Spurs one is in there, Manchester United away, Wolves away, but I just can't see how teams would score against them. They're so solid. You
got to convince Opta of that, because they still only got them at 26%.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying that the games that they've got to play. Look, it's for me. If Liverpool win tomorrow, it's still in their hands. But you asked about the fixtures that are there in terms of for Arsenal. So I'm looking at it and going, we question the away fixtures, or a lot of people do, including myself. But performances like today, where they keep clean sheets, when they nullify opposition to trying to get opportunities, I just can't see how teams will score against them, to be honest.
But Gabriel went down, didn't he? And he had a knock, and he was fine, thankfully. But injuries can still play a part, can't they? This season they had Saliba last, and you're just keeping your fingers crossed, if you're Arteta, that none of his key men do get injured in this vital last few games.
What are your biggest questions still around Arsenal?
They're answering every question I can even think of, to be honest, because, like I say, that experience they've got from last year. I mean, I think it was really important to see as well, they lost a lot of points for the bottom teams, I felt, last year. And the teams they're playing against are actually challenging for something. Wolves are trying to get into Europe as well at some point. Everton are trying to stay up. I think away from home as well, there's an expectation now of Arsenal where they, like you say, they keep clean sheets and they get that first goal. When they get that first goal, they're really hard to break down, and then it opens up teams, which then allows more space for these players, Odegaard, to get involved. Declan Rice, with the manner he is in midfield, we didn't really speak much of him tonight, but that's how consistent he is, because we expect this from him now. So they've got everything right now, and it's really nice to see. I still don't know who's going to win it, but
well, does it the manner of Man City's second half performance? Certainly, Alan, today, super impressive at Crystal Palace. Arsenal just winning here in this fashion. Does that just then pile on extra pressure for Liverpool? It's a huge game at any time, of course, going to Old Trafford.
Yeah, well, you bang on there that it is a huge game, and you're hoping, from Arsenal's point of view, Manchester United can lift their game compared to how it has been. But Liverpool are a team with lots of experience in it, and certainly the manager will play a part in that. Arguably, that's maybe their biggest hurdle, isn't it, Liverpool's, from here on in. you look at it and on paper you think, oh, have Arsenal got the hardest run in? But yeah, I mean, if Liverpool do win tomorrow, I mean, that's a massive statement, I think.
That Spurs game as well for Arsenal, isn't there? Lurking.
I know, North London derby's always... Theo, you know
Don't
better.
ask me to score.
The other thing that particular battle highlights as well is what we sort of started off by saying, that we learned about Arsenal in this title run-in, which is their resilience, their mentality, their toughness defensively. And I know we showed Gabriel there up against Haaland, but having Saliba there has been huge. And we talked about this so much at the end of last season, and it was kind of dismissed by a lot of people, the importance of having Saliba in that side and fit, and the difference that's going to make for Arsenal in these final 9 games of the season, where he wasn't there for a large part of it last season.
And I think one of the other things, what was a real massive miss for Arsenal when Saliba, got injured in that Sporting Lisbon game, was Tomiyasu got injured in the game as well. So then Ben White probably goes to centre half, when we had to use Rob Holding the last time, and he was a massive drop off for us. And then Tomiyasu would probably play right. It's not going to give us Saliba, but it's going to keep that right side, which really lost a lot, getting the ball to Erdegaard, getting the ball to Saka when we lost Saliba. But now, obviously, with Saliba and the fact that he can defend so high, him and Gabriel, they're so comfortable. And this is where Arsenal can press people in. They can keep them in there because they know the confidence.
That's a trust, isn't it?
Absolute trust.
So one centre-back can go and you can leave the other centre-half isolated with what?
Exactly.
I mean, he was left sometimes yesterday with just Haaland.
Yeah.
Would you do that with Rob Holding, or would you change
Absolutely
your whole
not.
way you play? And that's harsh on Rob Holding, but ultimately that is the truth, isn't it? You've got to have that trust right got your back.
You cannot do that with Robert, but you can do that. You can actually, for want of a better word, you can take liberties when you've got a centre half as good as Saliba and Gabriel, because they both complement each other, because you can leave them 1-on-1, 2-on-2. It's like you see it with somebody like Vidic and Ferdinand were like, they could easily have a 2-on-2 and then you could push the team in. And that is what Arsenal are doing now. What was good about Arsenal yesterday is everybody having to be right. You saw how deep Saka was. You saw how deep Trossard was. And to make sure that they kept those gaps limited to City. The only thing was they weren't able to break and punish them, which they should have done.
Well, I suppose they can't be in 2 places on the
Absolutely
pitch, can
not,
they?
no.
So it's and then
This
when
is
they
why
do get
Martinelli
there,
was such a miss.
But when they do get forward, they've run a long way to be there.
Exactly,
as well.
and I think what they've learned as well is that you have to take the chances. Everybody knows that against City, you have to take the chances if you don't do that, and that is could have done yesterday. Is take the chance and beat them, which would have been amazing, because for confidence and momentum, knowing that yes, we were under it for so long, Arsenal, but we were still able to cause them a problem. Yeah.
So if we go back to where we started talking about, which was, it wasn't the most exciting of games, but intriguing in its own way for the purist. Also, Arsenal's maturity, their defensive improvement, their improvement in their mentality, their strength in their mentality, that City maybe aren't quite where they have been when they've been at their peak. You know, it's still City, isn't it? So when we're talking about a tiny drop off at 1% or whatever it is, but also the fact that Arsenal, a draw for them might be exactly the right way to approach it. A point away to Manchester City might be a great result over the course of a season. But even taking 4 points off City across the course of a season, it might just be not quite enough, because they still find themselves 2 points off the league leaders, who we'll talk about in a second. We'll talk about Liverpool in a minute. But they've done brilliantly against Liverpool. They've done brilliantly against City. And yet it still might not be enough.
Yeah, and that little mini league between the top 3 sides, they've got 8 points, and Liverpool and City have got 3.
And even in the top 5, you can widen it out to the top 5 as well. Bear in mind, all of the 3 title challengers have to play, both Tottenham and Villa, between now and the end of the season.
And I think both those sides are going to be dangerous opponents, because Tottenham are able to score. Villa at home are very strong.
And they're playing for something.
And they're both playing for a Champions League place as well, absolutely. So I think there is so much jeopardy left in the remainder of the season. What I would say about Arsenal is yesterday, and the season as a whole has been a big psychological win for them, because they've convinced us in who assess games in media that it can be done. 2 seasons ago, people would have thought Arsenal were a side maybe playing for a place in the top 4. Over the course of 2 seasons, they're serious contenders to win the league. I look at that back line, and it reminds me a lot of the way that Pep Guardiola changed up his defence. You know, he went, Cancelo came in, he went. You know, lots of mixing, matching, chopping, change until he got the right formula. And now it looks as though Arsenal have got the right formula in defence because theirs is the best in the Premier League. They've got the best attack. They scored the most goals from set pieces. They scored the most goals from corners. They're doing such a fabulous job. And when you're there at press conferences, you don't see anxiety. And when you talk to people in and around it, you don't see worry. You see a lot of serenity around the cast, because they believe that they should be there and that they can stay there.
So having made such a great case for Arsenal, we know what Manchester City are capable of over the course of many seasons now. So why then, with it being so tight, there's only 3 points between those sides, why are OPTA predicting that Liverpool have an almost 1 in 2 chance of winning the Premier League? Does that feel right to you, or does it feel closer?
Each of the top 2 teams have done it before. The surprise for me is City, because City have basically won 5 of the last 6. And City remind me a lot of Manchester United post Sir Alex Ferguson. And by that I mean there came a point where Fergie time was burned into our memories. If they were behind with 89 minutes to go, you still believe they could find a goal from somewhere because they've done it so many times over the preceding 2 decades. And now there is this belief that, well, they're City, aren't they? So we don't assess the technical elements of it. We just say, well, they're City. They know how to find a way to win. And that's why they're still in that conversation. But Liverpool have got the best attack. They still don't have their best striker playing at the moment, Jota. When he comes back, they'll have even more. They've got so much depth with the young players coming through as well. And they're top now. They look to have, to me, the easiest run-in of the lot. But, of course, there is no such thing as an easier run-in when you get to this stage.
Right, Lee. Here's one for you.
Go on.
So, if you do fall short this year, next year, I personally don't think City are as strong as what they were last year, with losing Gundogan and Mahrez and things. Liverpool losing the manager at the end of the year. Do you think that Arsenal would start the season next year favourites?
Well, they're definitely one of them, easily. Absolutely, with the progression that they're...
because they are. We can all see them. They're getting better and better.
Yeah, you have to say that if they don't do it, you've got to say that what they've done the 2 previous seasons to the one what we're coming up to, you have to say that they are one of the favourites. They will be. I think they will be. Like you say, City this season, because of how good they are, of course they're amongst it. Liverpool with the injuries and their experience, and you look where Liverpool are now, and you have to say it's unbelievable. You know, still haven't got their number 1 goalkeeper. You know, we're still playing like I know it was against Brighton, but you got someone like Virgil, marshalling Bradley and Quansah, and the young player Endo coming in. Now we're seeing McAllister playing the kind of football that we saw him play while they brought him on for Brighton, and obviously up front they're so unpredictable and they can score that they're in a position now, Liverpool, where, you know, like we say, they know what to do here, but at the same time, you know, listening to Pep say it's in their hands, it's because they're top. If Liverpool win,
it isn't in their hands. That's true.
It's in their hands, of course. But at the same time, I don't think any of the run-ins are going to be easier.
Slip to 10th. Chelsea go above them without playing today because of Brighton's goal difference being hit by 3 Arsenal goals. And it's going to be top 7, maybe even top 8 for Europe this season. So there is a bit of work you see Brighton have to do in some difficult games ahead, Karen.
Yeah, again, you're looking at the City game. They're all so tough, aren't they? It's just where the goals are going to come from. They can outpossess teams, but I just worry about how they're going to score against these teams in the last part of the season.
You can feel his frustration, can't you, coming through on that?
Yeah, look, there's the big players are out injured. I mentioned to you on M&F ages, Matoma, one of my favourite players, he's not available, and players that can make something happen.
Solly Marsh, who's missed most of this season.
Ferguson as well, he's had moments. So yeah, in attacking it, like I said, you can have all the possession, play the nice football, but you're defined by what you do in the last part of the pitch. And if they're not available, they're players that can open teams up, then he can do whatever he wants. It's not going to get you where you want to be.
3 goals in the last 6 games, just at a time when they are trying to push on for European football again. We shouldn't, dampen the achievements of last season, Alan. It was always going to be harder, wasn't it, with the extra challenge of that European campaign, their first ever this time round?
Yeah. I mean, to finish 6th last season was a tremendous achievement, and to keep that going, as you say, it's hard. They really hadn't got the squad to go with both competitions, and I'd like to see them in Europe again, because I think they can compete now with that year's experience behind them, and it's possible for them if they keep going. But they're always an enjoyable team to watch without trying to be condescending. I mean, they've got a punch when all those teams you mentioned, Karen, are fit, haven't they? Matoma could transform them. Evan Ferguson, wonderful young centre forward. So he's just been a bit unfortunate in that direction.
Are they enjoying the football down here, Fiona? You talked to one or two players. Danny Welbeck just came over for a bit of a chat on his way out. Are they enjoying life under Roberto De Zerbi?
I think it's the expectation as well. Danny wasn't happy with the result. I mean, it just gives credit to what they expected to do this season. I mean, you're playing against potentially one of the champions this season and they're disappointed. I mean, they've not lost it for a long time as well. I think the good thing for Brighton going from, they're playing teams that are challenging for the similar sort of position as well, particularly the last sort of 4 games there we noticed in the VT there. And it's in their hands. They've got a few home games as well. So they're strong here. They start off games relatively strong. The support at times, yeah, there's a bit of sort of anxiousness I feel at times when they're playing out from the back, but that's how De Zerbi plays, and he'll continue to do that. But like you say, there's missing those sort of key players up front that's going to win you games.
And there's a question, I suppose, around the entire football club about what happens next. 6th last season, their highest ever finish, European football for the first time. And then you'll have heard the story, I'm sure, this week about the record profits for this football club as well. I don't get the impression that Roberto De Zerbi was jumping up and down celebrating that. He would like a new centre forward, as probably most managers would. What is the future, immediate future, do you think, for this football club? How do they get that balance right moving forward?
You don't want to become one of those selling clubs where you sell all your top players and then you're kind of not in the position where you want to be. But look, Brighton have been very, very clear, and I think De Zerbi, when you sign for Brighton, they have to understand that they're a club that develop not only just players, it can be sporting directors, it can be managers, and if there's a right deal for anyone and it suits the person and the club, then you're going to move on. But they are looking to be sustainable, and Tony Bloom's put in £500 million of his own money, and I think there's £400 left to be paid. So they built this stadium. I know they're doing so much for the women's team. So for a club, there's a bigger picture, and sometimes that might frustrate De Zerbi because he's a football guy and he wants to finish 6th and above and keep going. But I guess there's a bigger picture for Brighton, and people that come in have to kind of respect that. But you're right, there's a balance, Dave.
I'm sure the Brighton fans would totally accept what you're saying, Karen, and you do get the feeling that most of them are very much on board with what the football club is trying to do under Tony Bloom and Paul Barber. The question is this manager going to be as patient?
Probably. He doesn't strike me as somebody who is patient. He hasn't really batted down all the stories about him perhaps joining somewhere else. So I think already Brighton will be thinking, there's a fair chance he might not be here, and they'll have 1 or 2 names lined up, I'm sure, to be his successor. It'd be a shame because he's a very talented coach, but they can bring another very talented coach in. They've got that ability, and of course the recruitment, Enciso and Buonanotte, these young lads they bring in. You can't keep doing that. You have a little patch, but I mean it's been spectacular, hasn't it, the recruitment?
You mentioned though last season, finishing 6th, and they sold so many players. Brighton will have known that someone at some point might come in and poach their manager, or he might move on. So they would be naive if they didn't have contingency plans like any member of their staff. So it isn't just because of what maybe he's been saying, the manager. They will probably know at some point, if we're doing something right here, people will want to take our managers, our staff and our players. So I think they have that bigger planning picture, and I wouldn't be surprised if and whether he goes, where it might be this season, next season or in 3 or 4 seasons, they'll have the right person lined up.